So, welcome back, everybody, to our podcast Strategiewerkstatt, our small hitchhiker's guide to strategy. I have a crazy dude with me, Oliver. But before we go into the crazy questions, Oliver, who are you and what are you doing?
Thanks a lot, Marcus. Yeah, so I'm Oliver. Really nice to meet you. Actually, for the second time this week. And so I'm, I guess, technical by background. So I studied electrical engineering originally and got into software pretty early on. And I spent most of my career in software, either on the kind of website or machine learning, data science, data engineering. I was most recently the CCO at a company called Plan A. We were monitoring, reducing and reporting on carbon emissions, or helping enterprise companies report, reducing, and measure their carbon emissions. And yeah, I was with them for almost 5 years, 4.5 years, and saw the team grow a lot. So I actually joined the company when there were 7 people and saw the team grow to, overall, we were, I think, 130 at the peak. And the engineering organization was around 30.
Oh.
And yeah, amazing experience. And it was very cool to kind of go through this journey of starting very hands-on, and a lot of my kind of previous roles have been very hands-on, and shipping codes, reviewing PRs, and to very quickly taking more of a leadership role, management role, and figuring out how to actually scale a team, how to make sure the team is operating well, and making sure that we're secure, and making sure that the team has some idea why we're there and what we're doing and what our direction is. And yeah, so the last few years of Plan A were really much more kind of leadership role and looking at operational excellence, technical excellence, and strategy. And yeah, I guess really looking for. Oh yeah, actually, maybe I could talk about actually what I'm doing now. So I actually left Plan A around the beginning of the year, so March this year, and looked at kind of thought a lot about what I want to do. And in the end, decided I actually want to found again. And I think that's what one of the things we're going to talk about now.
Yeah, that's exactly why I called you out as the crazy dude, because you went through the cycle from 7 people to 130 and you've seen the company grow, and then you stop and now you decide to found again.
Yeah.
Why on earth are you founding again?
Yeah, so I think for reasons, I was kind of reflecting on this, and I think there are four big reasons. So I think the first is that at a kind of, in terms of the market, there is this new thing called AI, and I think this, yeah, maybe you've heard of it, and it just opens so many opportunities.
Yeah.
And the more that I use it myself, the more that I look at the tools which are coming out in the past years, and the more opportunity I see. And so I think it's just a really exciting technology. I'm excited about building something in that space. Then in terms of how you actually build a company, how you run a company, I think it also changes a lot. So it's there's a lot of opportunity in products you can build, but there's also a lot of opportunity in how you can build companies differently. And this is something which it's been really cool to kind of go through this experience with Plan A and building this organization. And then now with AI, seeing that actually there are so many things that you might do differently. I mean, I've been very hands-on for the past few months with this founding journey. And it's quite amazing how much you can build now, supported by these coding tools like Codex or Claude Code. And yeah, and I think that extends into so many other functions in the business. So it's really exciting to see how you can build a company differently. Then I'm also extremely lucky, I think, to be in a personal position where I can take the risk. And I think the confluence of factors, there's really exciting opportunity, and in building a company, I'm also able to take the risk. And so I thought, yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. I should do this. I should take the opportunity. And then the biggest reason is it's fun. It's really fun. I do really enjoy it. So yeah, I think that's it.
I was reading the other day that I don't know how many startups actually succeed. So it's I don't know, 1 out of 10 or like even less. And then finding someone who succeeded, and then knowing that potential failure is high for the second
Yeah.
time, trying to do once again. I think it's
Yeah.
brave. I think it's cool. And as you said, AI offers opportunities to build companies differently. I think that's,
Yeah.
we see established companies now struggling with adopting AI because they are not AI native. So they are not built around the ways that AI could augment our own work, right? I think
Yeah.
with your leadership span you have and this management roles you have, where do you actually see opportunities where AI can really help us shape companies in a totally different way?
Yeah. I think everywhere.
Okay.
And I think there are two.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Yeah. I think there are two like main points. I would actually just add one thing to your previous question.
Yeah.
Is I've been very lucky to meet some very cool people who are also in this position.
Yeah.
And it's great working with these people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
Say hi.
terms of your
Names.
yeah. Hi Nina, hi Max. Yeah. If you're listening. And
They will.
I think like where do I see opportunities? I mean, I think one of the things that I was thinking a lot about when I was a Plan A, as we brought in a middle layer of management and we promoted people from within the team to management positions, and we also hired people into management positions. And also from my own experience in managing, it really made me think about how management works and what aspects of management you can systemize. And this is actually something you mentioned, I think, earlier this week, but also what aspects you can't. And so I feel that there are a lot of things actually in management that you can systemize. And I think even pre-AI, this is something I was really interested in. And I think now with AI, it's a whole other, it really kind of puts the gas on being able to systemize a lot of these things that you do as a manager. And so that's very specifically in terms of management. More generally, I mean, I talk about coding. So, I mean, I can build things very quickly that I wouldn't have been able to build so quickly before. I'm not a front-end developer really, but suddenly I can build a front end in an hour, and that's hugely impactful. And so I think it changes the way that we build teams probably, and I'm actually super excited to see how this works. I think it changes the roles we have as well. I mean, if you think of an engineering organization, typically you'd have a product organization to have some product managers. You'd have probably teams which are stood across the customer journey or business domains. And within those teams, you'd have a product manager, some engineers, and maybe a designer, maybe some kind of domain expert. And historically, the product managers will kind of decide what needs to be built and what the customer problem is. And then the engineers will build that. And it's so common for the engineers to be a bottleneck in this process. And I think now that we have tools like Lovable, now that we have tools like Cursor, I think there's actually a real opportunity for other functions who are not technical, who are not engineers, to actually start contributing to the code base. And I think perhaps, and I'm not saying this is definitely happening, but a potential trend I can see is that the role of engineers shifts from being one of delivery and delivering actual features to the customer to rather being one of creating a foundation for anyone actually to build products and anyone to fix bugs and anyone to deliver value to customers. And I think that's going to be if that happens, that's going to be a seismic shift. That's going to be a huge shift. And so it's these sorts of shifts which I think AI kind of start to unlock.
Yeah. There's two things I want to hook into. First, the comment on what you said, like the engineering shifting from delivery to supporting anyone. So this is away from coding. I'm not sure if the code quality is as high as a person would do it today, right? Yet, I mean, looking at the speed, we might be there soon. I'm currently reading the book Working Backwards, telling the Amazon story. And there, one thing that struck me was that the product manager, actually that pitched all the great ideas to Jeff in the end, they were always asked to create mock-ups. But they were not able to do mock-ups themselves because they needed to go into the engineering and get the front-end designers and build that stuff up, do the wireframes and everything. And now with AI, with the seismic shift, the PM and the PO, the PM in that case, would actually be able to build the mockup without having aid of an engineering team, right?
Yeah.
And I think also towards the customer that will change. I mean, now even a customer can say, hey, I want this product and I want it to look like this, right? So I think there's a morphing, maybe even of the boundaries. I mean, boundaries of the roles clearly, but maybe even the boundaries of companies that we are not looking into company A, but company B, but more like a network of companies that morph from one and the other. That's one comment I wanted to do. The other one is a question, and that's going back to the systemization of management work. And I'll give you an example, what is a system that you would see that we could systemize today that would support management work?
Yeah. I mean, I talk about the idea I had some years ago, and I really like this concept of something in a box. This product concept of something in a box. I think there are a few companies which have done this for different verticals. And I kind of thought about this in terms of management in a box. So let's say as a manager, I think that there are some basic things that you need to get right. I think, well, there's some basic things that you need to do. You need to set up one-on-ones with your reports. You need to do performance reviews with your report. You need to be able to manage your stakeholders effectively. And you need to do planning, whether that's like quarterly planning or even planning. If you're an engineering manager, maybe you're leading a Scrum process. And I think that those things actually are quite simple. It's a question of knowing that you need to do them. And I've worked with managers that didn't know that they needed to do those things and just, for example, just never got around to setting up one-on-ones. And so just knowing that you need to do those things. And then when you do start doing those things, having some guidance for how you do them. So what should a performance review look like? What are the topics you should go through? How do you set expectations with your report? How do you make sure that your report really understands what their expectations are and that you're able to kind of come back to those expectations in the future? And I think that there's so much around this kind of just operational stuff, which you can give a lot of guidance on in a pre-AI world and in a post-AI world, with the tools that we have, with the technology we have now, actually give this guidance in a contextual basis. So being able to actually give guidance on how to run one-on-ones, not as a prescriptive thing, but as a kind of reflective thing with managers. And so, yeah, so I think that I think you can like very explicitly systemize these things without AI. And I think with AI, you can kind of contextually support managers with these topics. And then there are a whole bunch of other challenges you have as a manager. I think you have, often a manager will be managing lots of different projects, maybe lots of different people, and kind of context switching across lots of topics, across lots of people and people problems is obviously a big challenge. And I think AI actually has it's not so much systemizing it, but there's a lot of opportunity for AI to also support in these things. It kind of, I think of in terms of load balancing these topics, like these topics often don't come up for you as a manager in a sequence that you want, or in a sequence that is easy for you to digest and process. And I think AI can do a lot to kind of load balance these topics.
Yeah, that resonates. So I think
Yeah.
some of the stuff you named, like setting up one-on-ones, having performance reviews and so on, giving feedback, I'm not accepting a manager to say, I don't know how to do a one-on-one. I don't know how to give feedback, because as you said, this is prescriptive. You can use any search engine in this world that you like, yeah? AI driven or no. You'll
Yeah.
find massive amounts of free recipes on how to run a performance review and so on. So this is something I'm not accepting anymore, right? Might have been different 20 years ago, but now with a thing called internet, there's knowledge at your fingertip everywhere, right? So I think this is not what you're aiming at. And I'm somehow reminded of COVID. Why am I reminded of COVID? Throughout COVID, we've seen that we cannot fathom what exponential functions are and what they do, right? So we can't. And what I'm seeing is now this shift from prescriptive to contextual, right? And I believe that's like exponential functions. When people that are not used to working with exponential functions, I'm a physicist, right? So I would understand if our chancellor said, hey, we have an exponential function, it's hyper exponential, it'll be growing. I said, oh shit, that's bad, right? Give the audience or make a try, right? So what does contextual mean?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we are, add a disclaimer, we're still very early. So we're still like figuring out actually what this looks like for us and our product. Where we actually came from in this idea of giving contextual feedback was more in terms of coaching. So we've pivoted a few times, and some time ago we were actually looking at coaching and seeing if we could basically support people in the onboarding process in a business. So when they join a company, can we speed up that process? And one of the things we found was that from talking to users, from talking to managers, people usually don't respond well to just having all of the information given to them, having to sit through a week of onboarding sessions with the leads and the managers, and then having to remember all that stuff. And what works a lot better is that we give them contextual support as they're onboarding. So instead of like giving them all the information in the first week, rather supporting them to get started, and then allowing them to ask questions as they're working. So, for example, you're onboarding an engineer, they don't know what the process is for submitting a PR yet. And so not giving that as documentation in the first week, but rather allowing them to ask a kind of chatbot or something similar to say, yeah, I want to add a PR, where do I start? And giving contextual feedback like that. And that's kind of like what we would call responsive, but also then looking at proactive, like a proactive
Like
user
watching
experience
what
where,
that person like would be doing. Like,
yeah,
hey, it looks like you're writing a documentation. Hey, here's the SOP on writing documentation, or here's our style guide and whatnot, right?
exactly, yeah. Or if you have like a first-time manager and they just had a one-on-one and perhaps I don't know, they haven't talked about things about, for example, how the person is feeling generally, and perhaps giving them some feedback at the end of the one-on-one saying, contextual feedback saying, you could have perhaps asked these questions. So yeah, that's kind of how we see. That's how I hope that gives an overview of how we think about contextual, like a contextual product.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you have the system that you work in. So like the structures, the SOPs, the policies, the rules, right? Like this around. And then at different spots, you have the individual human beings that have in their immediate surrounding, they create the context around them.
Yeah.
And now it's about the AI to like sense and realize where this person is in their respective journey, and
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
allowing the information to flow like at the right moment, in the right
Yeah.
dose, in the
Yeah.
right tonality even, right?
And I think,
That's this level of understanding that
yeah.
I was looking for. It's not just, hey, here's a documentation. It's
Yeah.
about like really sensing on what's going on and then like putting it into the context of that moment, which will be unique. Any other
Yeah.
first-time manager will have a different journey and will have like
Yeah.
different moments when this information is coming in.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's interesting to see how we are understanding what AI can do and where AI actually really kind of moves the needle on supporting businesses. I think that in the very early days of ChatGPT and these chatbots, we think of the value of AI as being a bit kind of human interface. That's kind of it's pseudo-intelligent interface that we can talk to about things. And I think what we're realizing now is that actually the real power is more kind of on the back end in terms of doing this contextual understanding and like surfacing information when it's needed. So I mean, the chat interface is amazing, but the real power of it is that it can understand broader context and surface information kind of on its own, or like really at the right time.
Oliver, our time is over. I'm sad to say. I do feel that we'll have a reckoning and a second episode next year when your startup like really
Yeah,
launched.
for sure.
I would love to, like, I'm inviting you for a second episode next year, like simply to see your progress. It was super fun. I mostly like the dive into the contextuality, if that's even an English word, I don't know, into it, like what does context actually mean? I think that's also for me, that's the game changer that we need to understand as humans in order to fully grasp the potential that AI offers us. It's not only like asking a chatbot a question, it's like getting the answer at that moment in time with the right context from the right perspective. I think that's like the COVID exponential function that we somehow need to grasp.
Really cool. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the show. Hey, take care.
Cool.